So as I said, I'm bringing back Talk just for the day, so I can talk with Maxwell Patterson, otherwise known as I.O., both of I.O. fame and Near Dark Events fame for anyone that enjoys off-kilter, noisy, all-ages shows here in Victoria, BC. Also a friend of the show. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
So you got a new album coming out. You like my radio voice?
Yeah.
So you got a new album coming out. It's called Not All Prophecies. We were asking, what is we were talking about, like, when I name an album, it often is like, I like the sound of this, I'll figure out what it means later. But what is Not All Prophecies?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not something that has like an intentional meaning, but I mean, because we were just kind of talking about that. It's just like it's sort of just like a saying that, like, through that I just thought, has like a meaning that I like in a vague way. Because I don't know, like, I feel like, well, it's like, I don't know, is that a saying or is it a quote from the Lord of the Rings, actually? Like, not all prophecies come to pass, or like Galadriel was saying it or something.
In Lord of the Rings?
In Lord of the Rings, like, I think, isn't that where it comes from, actually?
You're asking the wrong guy. I don't know. Yeah. I'm more of the Hobbit fan.
I don't know.
Myself.
That might have just been something that came up actually through Lord of the Rings, now that I think about it.
It's those like big franchises get kind of burned into the back of your brain. You'll end up picking up little fragments of it.
Yeah. But like, I feel like what it stemmed from me mentally was like the saying of, like, not all prophecies come true,
Have you had any things that you felt in your life in the past were prophetic and meant to happen that didn't see themselves through?
I don't think so. No.
It's all come to roost.
I mean, I don't know. No, not necessarily, but I don't know. I've never had the prophetic, view of life. Maybe like destiny. I don't know. I think destiny and prophecy is different.
Yeah, I don't know if like living like a prophetic life goes in tandem with, for the listeners that don't know, Max is kind of infamously like ascetic, as you like to say.
Yeah.
Very disciplined, regimed in terms of practicing the drums. Anyone that follows your Instagram will see that. So do you think that you can live a lifestyle where you feel like there's some kind of thing that needs to come? Do you think you still have to work towards it? That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I mean, I was just sitting on the couch last night, and I said to Lauren, I was like, I just said out of the blue, I need to start taking more extreme measures to hone my craft.
What would that look like? Okay, what are your measures? This for the listeners here at home. What are the current measures that you're undertaking? Last time we did one of these interviews, I know your discipline has changed. We did that. It was 3.5 years ago that we did that last interview.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that too.
Time flies, eh?
Yeah. You mean like what's my practice routine?
Yeah, what's it become now? Where are we at? And what changes have you made to hone in?
Yeah, I don't know. The last time we talked, what was my practice routine? I think
on the record. I
think the last time we talked on the record, my practice routine would have been like, basically would have been like get home from work and practice from like 4 to 8 p.m. Yeah, that would have been just like practicing on the drum kit, basically. But now, like, it's the daily routine is basically wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I practice jazz drumming and like quiet, like, I've kind of mastered the art of quiet practice as well, like for, despite people thinking that I only play extremely loud and extremely fast, like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 till 7 in the morning really is like 2 hours of practicing. And I've been studying jazz drumming, like with a teacher, bebop drumming specifically, and working on that quietly, like brushes, like playing with brushes on a practice pad, kind of thing. And
it's like a different art form, the brushes too. It's almost like a different instrument when you're playing with brushes.
Yeah. Well, and it's I've actually found it's a very useful thing because it's like because I mean there's a thing with playing drums with sticks is there's like a rebound factor that isn't found in brushes. So playing with brushes is actually kind of a way of like developing like muscular control.
So you mean rebound in that like the
that,
vibrations run through the sticks, so they kind of like will hit twice if you loosen your wrist.
Yeah,
whatever,
well,
right?
like when you're playing with a stick, because you're hitting like a head that's like tuned to a tension, is that, I don't know, I don't know anything about physics, but the physics of that is that like when the stick hits and then it'll rebound back up, but like with a brush, like if you hit the drum with a brush, it's not going to bounce back up into the position that you had it before. So it's like sort of like inverse. It's sort of like a reverse exercise where you're exercising, lifting, the stick or the brush back up again into position rather than it just kind of coming back up by physics. So 5 to 7 a.m. Bebop drumming, I'm the studies that I have in that, and then, some reading, interspersed in there, reading like about, studying written material to taking notes of what I'm going to practice later. And then 7:30 to
being like theory based stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then basically like 7:30 through 4:00, because in the past couple of years I've started studying conical, which is like the rhythmic language of South Indian percussion. So I actually practice that during the day, while I'm working. And then get home.
And how do you do that? How do you? I obviously know, but again, for the listeners' sake,
I listen to a metronome while doing that because, well, the thing is, when my hands are otherwise, with my hands being otherwise occupied, I listen to a special type of metronome that keeps the rhythm of that, because the whole thing is that you're vocalizing rhythms while like clapping out.
Patterns.
The time signature, basically. It's just like a steady beat almost.
So it's like a polyrhythmic exercise, right?
Well, I mean, there's polyrhythmic aspects to it. It's just rhythm, like it's like conical is, it's everything. It's an exact science of everything that you actually play. And the idea is that everything that you play, you also vocalize. And it's,
three of different syllables that you say would be like a different drum, right?
Yeah, well, it's because conical was developed to be the percussive language of a specific drum, the mridangam drum, that each syllable roughly corresponds to a sound on that drum. So, there is a matter. I'm a drum set player. So, I mean, there's a matter of kind of interpreting that
quasi transposition.
Yeah. But I mean, really, at the heart of it is like it is even, for a lot of that, it's like I'm not even really super concerned with, taking like something that I learned from that and being like, okay, like I have to play this on drums. It's the development of the theory and the awareness of rhythm and sort of, and yeah, just it internalizes the rhythm. There's a saying within that tradition of like the rhythm, you basically are doing that. So the rhythm is in you. So that, when it comes to me playing anything really, whether I'm playing like drums or guitar or any instrument, those rhythms that I've internalized, I can understand it in that way. And it's really just like a matter of like, okay, like how do I want to approach it on drums, or like, how do I want to approach this? I guess, and part of finding that is
part of the discipline in a way, is taking this one thing and seeing how it translates into your actual practice.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like it's the number one thing it's really the number one thing in the past couple of years that's like opened so many doors, and it's like really like, it's also something where it's like I've really understood like what I've lacked in understanding. That I
that's
feel
the
like
Taoist thing. Like it's like to really know is to just know when you don't know.
Yeah, and it's been very revealing to like really like realizing I did not know nearly as much about music theory and like the theory of rhythm that I thought I did, in a lot of things that I feel like are sort of neglected by like the Western music system, especially when it comes to rhythm, that it's like, you know, this the way that I understand things, that it's like I totally misinterpreted it and got it wrong. And things are way more clear now, and it's like you know, and it's opened up so much in my drumming and just like as a musician and musicianship and composition and creativity.
Okay, we'll play a quick ad and then we'll get back to some more conversations. So we're here with Maxwell Patterson. We were just talking about your ascetic practice. If you want to pick up where you left off there.
So yeah, we covered like my journey into you know, studying South Indian rhythm, which has been very fulfilling. But sort of the next stage in the practice session would be, you know, I get home basically, and then that's when I focus on like soloing, like the noise rock drumming, soloing, and you know, I will do that basically for like an hour and 30 minutes continuously without stopping, and sometimes like just focusing, you know, just like on a continuous roll of like the bass drum and snare drum, and practicing that with a metronome, like in time, and practicing playing that in time. And then after that, I'll run through live sets, and then I'll kind of have a period after that of just practicing, kind of whatever's on my mind, like kind of reflecting on like, okay, like what did I feel was kind of like lacking, or what did I feel like in that session needed to be worked on a bit, and then working on that a little bit. And then afterwards, kind of like taking a break, and then for the rest of the night, I might like take some notes from a book on like what I want to work on for the next day. Just like studying a little bit, and you know, just kind of writing down material that to take into the next day. So I mean, that's like all in all, that's really that can be anywhere from like 10 to 13 hours
of total time given to the practice.
Yeah.
And so would you say the noise rock, like math rock period in there, that's your time of like play? Because you do need some play in there, I do think, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Because, you know, I don't know, with music, it's like it's this. I'm obsessed with this. You know, I'm obsessed with this. It's like, where does the line between virtuosity and like sort of like play and fun, and pure self-expression line up? But it sounds like you got it figured out. So
and it's like I've kind of I've sort of taken the approach in the past while of kind of realizing that, like, to develop my ability to play like in a free, creative manner or whatever, I almost need to really develop playing like constrained, you know, because like placing myself under constraint, where, you know, like this sort of like free improvisation approach, I'm not using that, and instead I'm putting limitations on things, and being like, okay, I'm gonna play, you know, that's why, like, you know, like studying jazz drumming, I've sort of realized in a lot of ways, because that is like, it's developing that style requires like a lot of like very disciplined playing, where I'm not playing at all in the way that I naturally would approach the drums. But I feel like doing that has made my ability that when it's like, okay, like I'm just gonna play how I feel like playing, it's sort of increased like the freedom that it's increased the freedom of, it's increased the feeling of freedom while playing free improvisation. Because it's like I'm tied down with some weight, and then I take that off, and it's like, oh, I can actually do my thing now.
Yeah, it's like the, you know, the adage of like you learn everything and then you forget it kind of thing,
exactly.
Or whatever. Like with extreme discipline lets you be undisciplinary when the time comes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it's another,
and it makes
like,
it better probably playing with other people and being able to kind of
totally.
they're doing this, so maybe I'll pull back on this so it fits what they're doing more, and then you wait for them, and you go, now I can do so on and so forth. You have more tools to access instead of just hoping these things are going to come together, which is how I do things usually.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Just being like, I don't know, this should work. We'll figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
It was, you were saying that you've come to some kind of new revelation.
Yeah. To get back into the Indian classical stuff is I've been reading about. It's almost like
quick. Where do you find these books? Because there isn't like when it comes to like theory books. There's a few ones people like talking about. There's like George Russell and stuff. But like, how do you even find these books?
For like what style of music?
Generally, like where's your ground zero of being like, hey, or do you just go on Amazon or something or?
Well, for the Indian classical music is at first it was really like, because there's not a very well developed like well of information that's accessible on the internet, especially for someone who speaks English. That's why I was
asking this.
So the first step for kind of doing that was kind of, seeking out everything that people have made like on YouTube or something, discussing it, which isn't much. And then the step after that was basically, going on Amazon, going on Google and just Googling it and just finding any book that's like mentioned the subject at all. You know what I mean? Getting that, reading it and seeing what's in it. And then, and then I found some other like, kind of, a lot of it is kind of like textbook material.
There's probably a lot of scholarly stuff on there, but the scholarly stuff's often kind of gate kept. Like it's your Google search isn't going to get you the actual info out of the scholarly stuff.
Well, I found a very good like 2-part sort of university textbook actually that was written by this guy named David Paul Nelson. He's like a ethnomusicologist, PhD in Wesleyan University, but he wrote kind of like an accessible version of his textbook that he taught to his classes. And that was really good for studying. But then what I started to notice with a lot of these books that were sort of like more academic is in the back of them, there's a lot of references for written material that they reference but also the thing is
you're literally a scholar then is what you're telling me.
It's becoming like that.
I have an industry. This is how you learn stuff is like you find your one source and you're like, oh, this is okay. And then in the bottom, it'll be like this person cited all these other people.
Yeah. And it's getting to the, where it's like I'm chasing down these like university texts that have only had like 100 copies printed and they're all at universities and like Indian libraries. So I'm like finding them on like Internet Archive and like printing them out.
That's madness.
You know, and it's it's like piecing together information.
You ever tried reaching out to any of these scholars?
Yeah, like I've emailed a couple of them actually.
I'm sure that they got back to you. I imagine.
Yeah.
They'd be happy to. It's relatively obscure, especially coming from Vancouver Island. They'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. But yeah, that's kind of the process of that. And then as far as like, like learning like jazz or whatever, that's a much more like accessible style of music to find the theory in it. A lot of that is just kind of like, okay, like what first of it is like where I'm working with a teacher to learn that style of music. And he is sort of my well of information that I can reference, but it's also like finding basically if you're learning jazz drums, there's kind of like a handful of books that are sort of like considered like classic, like the
canon of jazz drum,
like
literature.
Drumming instructional books that aren't necessary. A lot of them aren't actually necessarily actually jazz books. Is a lot of the material is like old like drumming books. That can be like snare drumming books or basically from like the 40s and stuff like that.
So more in like a swing or like a marching band almost kind of.
Well, it's but the thing is they're like old books, but the thing about swing is they're interpreted, like jazz drummers have come up with methods of interpreting material from that book in the jazz idiom. Like, a very good example is this a very famous drum book called Syncopation, written by I don't know who, but the whole idea is that, to get into a music theory thing is like, there's straight eighth notes and swung eighth notes. And a swung eighth note is essentially, it becoming a triplet subdivision. So that those books is you like interpret the eighth notes in them. Everything that all the material that's eighth note based is swung eighth notes. So it's like you're changing into a different subdivision, and you play that in the jazz idiom. And the material that I'm receiving is from my teacher. My teacher studied
swinging. In essence, is just playing behind or ahead of the beat, right?
No, it's like a triplet subdivision.
So what is playing ahead or behind the beat then? Like
that's a feel thing, I guess. That's what you'd call like feel. It's essentially like it's a micro timing of like of your sense of beat, whether you're kind of just like, if your micro timing is like you're kind of hitting the beat just before or ahead.
Yeah, so it's like it's probably more related to tempo then, I guess, right? It's like you're pushing the tempo slightly behind by doing that, or slightly ahead by doing that, if you're playing in a live band.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the material that I'm receiving for learning jazz drumming, which I mean, I don't want to give the impression that like I'm a jazz drummer or anything. I'm learning these things to improve my own playing, but the material that I'm receiving.
Remember, once we recorded an album that we won't talk about now, we'll talk about it when it comes out later. But like when we were playing, you were like, "That's the first time I've played this whatever jazz beat it was in front of another person." You said that to me.
Yeah.
Which was a crazy.
Another person who wasn't my teacher.
Yeah.
But the material that I'm receiving from my teacher, because my teacher studied from like the legendary jazz drumming educator, jazz drummer Alan Dawson, who taught like Tony Williams and so many jazz greats. And I think he was the founder of like the drumming, what's it called? Like the drumming faculty department at like Berklee College of Music back in like the 50s or something like that. So I am like all those books that I'm studying from, I'm like receiving, like passed down from Alan Dawson to my teacher, like receiving the Alan Dawson methodology of approaching that material. And yeah, that's kind of
your scholarly approach to all of this, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to play another ad real quick, then we'll get into this this mysterious practice of yours. Okay, we're back. There's this mysterious thing that tell me about it. You have this idea of something you want to do. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's something I've been aware of, but feeling like, hey, like I could actually be ready to start trying to do this. Is that so? Going back to the Indian classical stuff is in North Indian classical music, and like specifically sort of like the the style that emerges out of like the Punjab region, is there's like kind of like a tradition, or like there's a traditional ritual that like tabla players from that area do, where basically they kind of just like lock themselves in a room like in isolation for up to 40 days and just do nothing but practice, like sleep as little as possible, eat as little as possible. And I've been aware of that, but I was kind of reading it yesterday, and it kind of connected to me that like that it's done as like an introspective it's done in like an introspective way to like reflect on like what you've learned thus far, and to really like kind of connect with like your instrument and your body, like your instrument becoming your body, and you know, development is like a person. But I was kind of thinking like I could totally do that. Like I could find like a shack to go out on, like find a shack on some island or something to go out and just, you know, do that. Like just, you know, like with like my noise rock drumming, just like play on the kit for
days
for hours and hours, you know.
Or you know about like people do like silent retreats and stuff like that. My friend Jeremy, who's a piano player, does that, and he speaks very like, not to I'm sorry, but he speaks very highly of it. Like in terms of like the creative stuff that he doesn't bring a piano with him, but you know, he comes back and he's like I talk to him every day. He lives in Toronto, but he went on one a couple weeks ago, came back, I started talking to him after he did this for a week, and the dude was dialed.
Yeah.
Like in every way. He was dialed creatively, he was dialed socially, he was calm, but he was still the same goofy guy that he otherwise is. And I was like, damn, okay. No, maybe you're onto something. And he wasn't being culty about it. That's why I'm kind of sold on it. Is he was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Works for me.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's the same thing really, where it's like, you're isolating yourself from everything but your instrument. So it's like the focus on that becomes really deep. And I think the idea around doing something like that is like, you can achieve things doing that you can't achieve during like normal practice. And I feel like to like, just to a certain degree, like where I'm at as a musician, like I feel like I'm ready to like try something like that, because like it's getting to the point where, it's getting to the point where it's just like having to take more extreme measures to hone my craft further.
I mean, I support it only if it's not in sacrifice of like real life. Be the pragmatist in me is like you have a job, you have like a partner, although like I don't know, you can figure it out.
Yeah, and there's ways to approach that. Like you can explain to the people in like your life that, I'm not saying I'm going to do this for 40 days. I think that's impossible to go and practice for like 20 hours a day for 40 days. But like,
what do you think the pragmatic amount of days is?
I mean, like try, like even if you tried doing it for like 3 days, like what if you developed?
I think you need more than 3 days. I think you need more than 3 days.
But like, what if you just tried that at first, and then over the course of your lifetime, just seeing how far you can take that,
Yeah, doing it here. That's my buddy who did the silent retreats. Like he does them like pragmatically, where he's like, okay, I have this stretch of time. I'm gonna go do this
exactly.
for this
It's not a thing. It's not like it's like this is a new lifestyle where this is my life now. It's like it's a very intentional, focused short period of time. Where you go and do that and like see what you can achieve.
Yeah.
Because I definitely do agree that like, just the distractions of life, the distractions of life can, removing them, for a time intentionally can help you like unlock something that you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and I think doing it in a more extreme way. It's not like just deleting Instagram so you stop looking at reels. Something where it's very much like I am away from it. I do not have access to it. All I have is I don't know. You'd probably bring like, a few 100 pounds of rice and beans or something, right? And make do, and like multivitamins, I would guess, or something.
Yeah.
Do you take multivitamins?
Not multivitamins, like sporadically, like I don't know. I'm not very good with that being consistent, but yeah.
With the regime? What's your diet? What's your diet like? I know you're vegan, right?
Yeah.
So what's your diet like to facilitate the regime?
I mean, it's all over. It's kind of all over.
I'm trying to think of what like a person listening, if they had no idea who you were, what they would be thinking hearing all that. And I know like my dad would be like, what the hell does he eat? He's doing all this.
I mean, it really changed. It becomes, there's definitely like hyper fixations when it comes to that of like every 3 weeks, I'm convinced I've come up with the perfect routine. That's just like, it saves time and yeah, but,
I understand that.
But it's
what's it right now? What's the hyperfixation food wise right now?
Like salad, definitely.
Salad,
like salad 2 to 3, like as salad 2 to 3 times a day. Fruit.
Yep.
Fruit in the morning.
You ever done the fruitarian thing? You know those guys?
No.
I had a friend who did that.
Yeah. I mean, I know about that.
He was like emaciated, to be honest with you. Like, that dude was not healthy.
Yeah, well, like the final form of the fruitarian diet is definitely like it's like just the sugar water only diet.
Yeah,
like,
that's what
it leads to, is because it's like it's like the government's lying to you and they don't want you to find out that all you need to eat is sugar water.
Yeah, he was in that territory with it for sure. But the dude had really good cardio skills.
Oh yeah,
his cardio was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like where that comes from is like, because it's like if you actually like professional cyclists and stuff, like when they're racing like racing like Tour de France, like what they eat is like literally like they eat like like maltodextrin, which is like, I think it's basically like pure starch.
I do know about this.
They drink like pure maltodextrin mixed with like water, and it's basically like the purest form of sugar.
Yeah, pure like what do you call it, fast carb or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I think it's like the it's the highest thing on the glycemic index, which is like, it's like an index of like how fast your body like absorbs the calories or something.
Yeah, like the Snickers bar is like supposed to be akin to that. It's not really.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the idea of it, it's
Yeah.
got like good healthy fats through nuts, and then chocolate for a little bit of energy, and then pure sugar basically.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't. Where were we going with
We were
this?
talking about your diet.
Oh yeah. It's I mean, it's all over the place. It's nothing. It's nothing spectacular. It's weird. I have weird fixations, but I don't know. Lately, it's been a salad thing.
Okay.
Like weird salads.
Yeah, I had a time where I get hyper obsessed with food because I like cooking and I like cooking big, but in a way that makes me survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had this idea that my friend Chris always makes fun of me for, and I called it bowl theory, which is so stupid. It's as simple as it's what you think it would be. It would be like, yeah, dude, like if you just put everything in a bowl and you have a base, you can basically eat anything, and it's good for you.
I mean, I feel that.
Yeah, like a salad. Being obsessed with salad is like you're practicing bowl theory.
It's like it's salad from the perspective that it's like that's kind of that's the base of it, and then I just kind of add whatever I feel like into it.
What kind of dress? Like I mean, like the vegan dressing. I guess you can't rock as hard as I would, but like.
Well, I mean, I've been making dressings from like like cashew butter and like tahini and peanut butter and stuff like that.
Good,
it's super simple to like to make and.
I guess through the vegan diet, you can lean pretty hard on like a lot of healthy fats and have a good time with it. I think,
Yeah. I mean, I kind of go back and forth with that stuff. Like, but yeah, that's kind of, and I don't know. I feel all right. I wouldn't say like I feel like the greatest in the world. Like I could sleep better and, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I literally say all the time, like I feel great, but I don't know. But
do you do affirmations?
Affirmations? No.
Okay. I mean, saying I sleep great all the time sort of is an affirmation in a way, or maybe it's just manifesting.
Yeah.
Being like, I feel great, dude.
Yeah.
I feel great for sure.
I mean, in a way, I do totally. I mean, I always take like you got to take a positive attitude towards everything, and it's like when you start thinking negative, like, I think you control how you feel about things in a lot of ways. Like you just, I don't know.
Within reason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a believer in the power of positive thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't recite my affirmations every morning before my.
I hear good things about the affirmations. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems to work for some people.
Yeah,
maybe you could try finding some like IO type affirmations.
I mean, I need improvement. Maybe I should look into that.
Maybe like just like watching the same video of Bruce Lee or something every morning, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, is that affirmations or inspo?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why is it? I mean, Bruce Lee is affirming a certain kind of aesthetic mastery that you wish to be.
Oh yeah, totally.
Whatever, something like that.
And I got to do the thing like putting pictures up on the wall. Like I've neglected doing that for a long time.
Bruce Lee would be on there.
Bruce Lee, yeah,
Who
for
else?
sure.
Who else would be on there? Which non-musicians would be on there?
Non-musicians, Bruce Lee. Non-musicians. That's a hard one. Probably someone else involved with martial arts, like martial arts movies.
Tony Jaa,
yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
What's
the Iko Weiss?
Okay, yeah, nice.
What was his movie? Not The Protector. Oh man, it's been a minute since I've watched this stuff, but he's like the Indonesian.
Yeah.
The Indonesian guy. I was really into his stuff.
He was the Raid guy.
The Raid, and there was a movie, his first movie I really enjoyed because it also stemming from like these is that
Marantu?
Marantu.
Yeah.
And I really vibed with because I looked into like what Marantu meant and what that movie is about. As I guess it's like people from like Indonesian villages, like it's a traditional thing where like when you're a man you become of age is you go on Marantu, which is basically like a journey to like find your way in the world. And it's that movie it's about kind of like a young man. He goes to like the big city to to like find his way in the world, and you know what I mean. He gets caught up in like it's kind of like a typical martial arts flick thing of like, but like
save various villages.
Well, he's like saving a girl from like the bad life and doing the right thing, and I mean, it's like it's just an excuse to have some like awesome action.
Yeah. I've been watching Bruce Lee. I've seen all of Bruce Lee's movies now.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta like if I don't know. Have you seen The Raid?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Go and check out Morantu.
Okay.
It's in Morantu. I feel Tony Jaa like On Back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I feel Morantu is very much the spiritual successor to the first On Back movie.
Yeah.
Because On Back like 2 and 3 were like totally different plot wise. They're still cool.
I've only seen 1 and 2. 2 was okay. I didn't.
But it's the spiritual successor to 1 in my opinion.
Gareth Edward Evans did that. Cool. Yeah. Bruce Lee. Okay. Do you know about this thing? I don't know. This is just you're the only person I know who would know about this. There's all these movies that come out of like after Bruce Lee died, and it's these guys trying to basically they were called like Bruceploitation movies.
Yeah.
You know about this?
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing in the world. It's
cool, but it's also like when you're first getting into it, it's almost like a bummer, like disappointment, because you're like it's like you'll literally go onto like those like YouTube channels that have thousands of martial art like Hong Kong kung fu movies, and it'll literally say like Bruce Lee something. You start watching, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't Bruce Lee.
Yeah, my favorite is Bruce Le.
Yeah,
it's just L-E. Yeah.
Well, even the Bruce Lee Master of Death, like. It's like, I started watching it, and it's like you realize like he's not like it's someone else pretending to be Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
But it's like the last half an hour of the movie was like filmed before his death. So
yeah, and it came out like they took 6 years to finish it up or whatever.
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, the last half an hour was awesome, but the first part of that movie I don't think was enjoyable at all.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Some of these movies are kind of good.
Yeah,
like in a way, like there's an approach. I mean, I like schlock because the idea of people like getting these things across the finish line is so like soulful to me, no. And finding out that there's like literally like 1,000 times the amount of movies that Bruce Lee made that are like based on the 5 Bruce Lee movies that do exist.
Exactly.
Nuts,
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy when you actually, because it's like Bruce Lee was always someone that you hear about all the time growing up, so you assume like, oh, he must have made a ton of movies, but like realizing that he made 4 movies and half an hour of a 5th movie that they like filled out after his death, and it's like 2
TV shows, and that's it.
TV shows that had kind of nothing to do with martial arts. And like the legacy that left, is kind of crazy.
Like you see those Ip Man movies.
Yeah.
Like those. But the way that they just like have to be about how Bruce Lee had like a very small relationship with this guy. And they get 2 movies out of that or whatever.
Yeah. I mean that series of movies. It went on for a bit too long. Like once you get to the number 5, you're like, okay, like this.
Yeah, once like Mike Tyson shows up in one of them, and the first one's so good.
Oh yeah,
it's like Rocky, but like historically grounded.
Oh
That's
yeah,
how I felt about it.
Yeah. It's like chills watching.
Yeah, it got me
watching a lot of parts of that.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta play some ads again.
Okay.
All right, we're back with Maxwell Patterson of IO. We were talking Bruceploitation. For those that don't know, Bruceploitation is a long-running sort of genre of film in which they sort of exploit Bruce Lee's name without actually having Bruce Lee in the film. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We stuck with Near Dark. I don't know. The Near Darks, you guys have found great success with that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the ethos behind those events?
Well, I mean, it originally started as kind of just an excuse for us to like have shows for our own projects to play like in the Victoria ecosystem, because I mean there's a history of experimental shows happening in Victoria, but in the absence of what we were doing, there's kind of been a gap of no one is producing those kinds of events. And
the artists are there, right?
Yeah, and for the projects that I have, it's it's not very common that's going to be booked on like a show for an indie rock band or like a punk band or like a grindcore band or something like that. Which like, I mean, all the love to people,
especially as all these venues started getting knocked down.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of just originally, I mean, it both originally stemmed from me needing shows to play to improve myself as a musician, and also like putting on shows for people that I've met on tour who also are musicians who go on tour. But it's become a thing where, I mean, it's kind of less about that. Well, and more about just like Victoria is kind of on the map of like a place that you can go to play if you play genres that are outside of like the punk, indie rock sphere that Victoria is kind of known for.
So that's the ethos, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all the shows are all ages. They're all us doing it ourselves, and they're all pay what you can, like accessible events, and that from that point of view, and very much like community center shows. Not I don't know. We're not trying to be fancy experimental music promoters.
What's a fancy experimental music promoter?
I mean, I don't, well, like, where it's, somewhere where it has like a program guide or something, or, gotcha. and it's the type of music that we book. Like, we lean more towards the stuff that's like really loud, and, has kind of like a more like punk aesthetic to it, rather than experimental music that has more like academic aesthetic to it.
Yeah, okay.
Or like a more
like post-classical.
Yeah, like coming from the classical or the classically trained world, which I mean is great that people are making that music, and but it's sort of it's just it's sort of just the preferences that I have, or I mean, I lean towards to wanting to support that certain kind of loud, crazy music.
What kind of like frame, like what's the creative impulse of putting on a show against the creative impulse of making music? Like how do you what have you kind of gotten out of it, essentially?
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, I think it's sort of just, I mean, it's kind of a way, like, with the relative small success of my own, like, musical endeavors, is I feel it's kind of like a way to pay back into, the community and the ecosystem that sort of I've, not saying I'm wildly successful or anything, but, like, the successes that I've had, I feel like it's sort of like a karmic, like paying my karmic dues, into the world that people have helped me out on my journey, that like I can be there to like set up a show for someone who's, traveling around playing their music, and bringing them like a positive experience of like, bringing them a show experience that they felt that had an audience that appreciated their music, and that I can be a good host to someone, and I guess sort of a just like pay back for like pay forward the like hospitality that I've received in those situations.
Yeah, and you seem to have developed like a following for these shows. That's this very like unique, youthful, excited group of like quote unquote new punks.
Yeah,
I was talking about when we played a show a couple years ago, and it was packed in Oakland's. Was it the Oakland's Community Center? And it was these kids, and it was like they were dressed like they were at a ska show in the early '90s.
Yeah.
And it was like, what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic? Where did they come from? And they loved it. They loved all the bands. They were all totally different, and they were going nuts. They were moshing respectfully.
Yeah.
None of them were drinking.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. How what kind of like response from this group of people have you gotten? Like how do they talk to you, basically?
I mean, I don't like, I don't know. I feel a lot of those people, I mean, I don't interact sometimes with a lot of the people who come, but like, I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, there's something happening, because it's like, because there is kind of this thing in Victoria where it's like, you know, there's not like a regular music venue where it's like, oh, something's happening. There's like a punk show happening every weekend, or like 3 times a week. So it's like, I feel like a lot of the times, especially on these shows that it's like on a Monday or a Sunday, I feel like for a lot of people, it's like, it's just like, oh, like something is happening and I want to go out to it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know I honestly can't say I know what a lot of these people actually really think about what they're being presented to. Like, you know, probably a lot of them are kind of confused. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of the vibe I get sometimes, but like it seems like they're there to like, they show up. And yeah, I guess that's it. We're exposing people to new things, which I think has gotten, you know, but I mean, even since then, I think there's more experimental stuff like cropping up, because of that. And because I think people realize like, oh, like there's kind of like a bit of a home for that here in Victoria now. It's not just like going to be confined to like my bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the most important thing. I think that's very cool. Like showing people that, you don't have to necessarily subscribe to a very kind of small idea of like post-punk and indie rock or whatever. That it could be something else, or even like within the punk spheres, like the very rigid, like slash cores and stuff. Yeah, you know,
which I mean is I love all that music. Totally great. And that music is totally like a great outlet for a lot of people, but it's I mean, it's just taking what's an outlet, like what's been an outlet for me, and like bringing it, you know, just like, presenting it local, like presenting the kind of music that I'm passionate about, like locally to people here. And, you know, cause I could do the thing where I never play shows locally. I only tour and I don't involve myself in the local scene, but it's kind of
people that do that. Not to name, I don't name names, but
I mean, that's a very normal thing. Especially like it's a very normal thing in the music world where it's like as soon as you start finding that kind of like success outside the local DIY scene, that you kind of just disengage with it and you don't involve yourself with it. And it just becomes about like you, and like people doing things for you. I don't know. I just don't really like that. I want to like create something locally here, for other people. Like I mean, that's the thing, is at the end of the day, producing these shows, takes up a lot of our time. It takes, it's, you know, it's stressful. You know, at the end of the day, it kind of ends up costing me a lot of money, most of the time. It's improving on that front, but like I'm doing it because like I think that's like kind of the right thing to do to, you know, just create something locally that I'm passionate about, and not just having it be a thing that's just like that. I don't know. I'm passionate about this kind of music, and I just want to create space for it.
So it's one of those things. There's like an artificial sense of space. You know, it's not like clout or success or whatever. It's not a resource. Yeah. It's not like oil or something. You know, it's ethereal. But you can very much feel, especially when you're young, because I was like this when I was younger. Like feel like there's only so much to go around, when that's just really not true.
Yeah.
And I think that's you're right. But I can also understand I don't know anybody that's done like, they don't play shows locally. Actually, I can't think of some people that do that, but I'm not gonna throw shade. I can understand like the social pressure that comes with that, where you're like, okay, like I'm now kind of above my own city, and when I do play, like people are very much like kind of like whatever, pseudo starstruck, and it annoys the hell out of me, and I just want to be a person, and the only way I can do that is not engaging this way, you know?
Yeah,
I can understand that.
Yeah, and I understand that like you know, where like people do have projects that are like legitimately like famous, and it's hard when you've achieved that degree of fame to like engage with with people on like an even level, just because like I don't know, like it can be weird, but like I don't think I'm ever gonna have that issue. And
Me neither.
The kind of music I play, like crazy noise rock drumming or whatever, I think you
never know. You gotta
have
think like
to-
Lightning Bolt when they play in Rhode Island, like a bunch of freaks are like,
and that's the
you
thing.
know?
Everyone I know who's ever met like Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt, like just say that he's like a normal, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Because it's like he's like a crazy noise rock drummer. Like how can you have your head in the clouds, being like, I put on like a weird mask and play like the craziest music ever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and part of the truth of that kind of music is you can get a certain amount of success, but it's not necessarily like when you're playing within sort of like the confines of certain, I don't want to use the word niche, but like very like capital G genres, is the people that like that are spread out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not this mass appeal thing. You're like, because like if you make music that sounds like Mac DeMarco or something, like everybody likes that everywhere to a certain degree. They're not spread out. They're not alienated the same way that somebody doing something like Lightning Bolt is.
Yeah.
Because Lightning Bolt probably only has like 600,000, 700,000 fans, but they all love Lightning Bolt.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
all over the world, especially because that music isn't lyrical. So there's no reason somebody who doesn't speak English wouldn't like Lightning Bolt. Right?
I actually didn't realize what I was watching in an interview with Lightning Bolt. Like Lightning Bolt lyrics are actually like very political.
I mean, they have an energy of like very anarcho, like.
Yeah, but it's like the lyrics are impossible to understand unless it's like translated for you. But I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That
I was thinking about that with extreme music, where people will be like, "Oh, dude, it's like this, and I'm like, "Dude, they are just going, yeah, like, you know." But you know, I think the emotion comes out under it. If
totally.
Right. Okay, we got to play another ad here. We were talking about Lightning Bolt. Noise rock. Okay, noise rock. How do you find noise rock? My friend Jeremy, the silent meditation guy we were talking about before, will occasionally ask me questions because he's a pop guy, like all the way. You know, he like, but he is my friend nonetheless. Jeremy, you know Jeremy. So he'll be like, "What is it? What do you mean when you say this, really?" And like that, being asked those questions makes you take a step back and go, "What does any of this mean?" And then I always think of like Socrates, which is a pretentious thing to say, but like Socrates will always be like, "Don't give me an example, like." Explain to me what it actually is, because people will be like, he'll be like, what's a good virtue? And they're like, well, a good virtue is being a good religious person. And he's like, oh, that's an example of good virtue. That is not good virtue.
Yeah.
You know, so what would you describe as we'll start with noise rock.
Yeah, like, so what do you mean, like what process do I use to decide, like to decode, like when I hear something new, deciding
exactly
that
the
it's
question
noise rock?
I'm asking you. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, and I use noise rock as like a very is kind of like an umbrella term of like stuff that is very like based in like drumming. It's like minimalist and punk
and rock instrumentation.
Yeah, but what I feel is kind of the common thread throughout all of it is all of it has a like thread of like prog in it, you know. And it's like, if you look at something like Lightning Bolt, like I really think like there is like an underlying element of prog in that music. Like it's prog for someone who's like, it's prog for basically like someone who's like a punk and has that aesthetic to it.
And you mean that where it has these like bizarre song strucures that don't necessarily
and like
follow
pushing the envelope, you know, especially from a like very like from like kind of like a punk rock virtuosity point of view, where it's like the objective isn't to be really clean and polished, it's to like really like push the instrument and push the sound of it, you know, like that. It's like using techniques not to be like, oh, here's a really clean sort of like jazz funk lick or whatever, being like, I'm playing drums in like a technical manner because it really fills out the sound, and it's making like this big
I think big is the key word too with noise rock. It's a big sound. But I do hear people call stuff noise rock that I categorically do not think is noise rock.
No, yeah, totally. Where it's like, because you can have music where there's noise and rock happening, and it's noisy rock, but that's not noise rock. I think there's very much like an intention that you're like you're pushing the sound to its limit. you know?
Yeah, and I think
like
in
whatever
recent,
that is.
Yeah, and I think in recent years there's a lot of like indie bands who use a lot of distortion and stuff, and they're essentially doing songs that sound like The Killers.
Yeah.
but they're just a bit more distorted, and
Yeah.
they'll call it noise rock. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, because
no.
it's like the intention behind that isn't that. Like the intention, you're not playing the drums, you know what I mean? Like you're playing, if you're using lots of distortions or whatever, but you're still sounding like indie rock that just has more distortion on it. Like you know what I mean? It's like a matter of like your intent, that it's like the drummer, if the drummer isn't playing like his hardest, you know what I mean? I don't think you're really meeting that criteria. Or if the guitar player or whatever isn't using like those like effects pedals to like create like a crazy like feedback soundscape
Yeah.
of like riffs, you know, that you're not I don't know, you're not meeting that criteria for me to mean like that's what that is for that.
Yeah, because I mean, I think of like bands that are like only sort of noise rock, is like the Yola Tango at times is not really that. Sonic Youth is like one of those sort of noise rock bands.
Yeah, you know, exactly, where it's
they're close. Like they have moments for sure that are like,
Yeah.
when they do their like 20-minute songs, you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, this is there, but
Yeah.
but they're a pop band really under it all.
I mean, I feel like Lightning Bolt for me is kind of very much like,
The epitome.
I feel like that's like Lightning Bolt and everything that came after that, you know. It's kind of like it's I don't know, for me, like, it also like closely associated to the kind of music I'm talking about, like noise rock, is like math rock. I feel really like the two bands that are really like everything is derived from them is Don Caballero and Hella. It's you know, and it's in a I feel like if it's music that doesn't derive itself from that, like it just doesn't feel
like math rock.
yeah
To you,
me.
yeah.
It either feels like it's sort of just something.
But do you think in the case of math rock, then like some of those other bands, they feel more like they come out of like late 90s twinkly emo?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or indie rock or
With like
you
lots
know.
the indie rock with lots of hammer-ons and you know.
Yeah, exactly. Which I mean is great music or whatever. But
is
for
great
me,
music.
like you know, just like just the music that at my core I'm like super passionate about, and I feel like I you know, I get the philosophy of that music and the philosophy of what I'm talking about, of like musicians like really pushing themselves in their instrument. And I feel like that's at that point like I feel like you can be pushing your instrument if you're like, you know, a you know, like Berklee College of Music, like jazz funk musician, where you're doing this like crazy time signature stuff with like your bass or drums or whatever, but it's all super clean or whatever. It's like you're pushing your instrument, but you're not pushing yourself. You know what I mean?
I see.
Like you look at a guy like, I mean, like Brian Chippendale, like that, you know, like
You got to be sweating is what you're
yeah,
telling me.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sweat drenched music.
Yeah, I was thinking about it's like those things that are like the non-musical things that become musical through like feel, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like a dumb example, but you know, the Brian Wilson at like his peak, most mentally ill, set a trash can on fire while they were recording backup vocals for a song because he thought that it would make it sound better.
Yeah.
You know, then like, you know what? It probably did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's probably like you can't literally hear it, but you could probably feel it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that recording, because I think that it set off the sprinklers and that recording's not actually around. But you know, for all intents and purposes, those type of things, I'm down with that. On the similar subject line, I was thinking about genre. You know, when I start my actual radio show on Thursdays 5 to 6, Problem Child, I've like changed the ethos of the show to be like, this is an exploration of like genre and what it means. You know. And a lot of people get kind of cagey when you talk about genre.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of it, but like in the Bandcamp tags era, I think it's good. I think genre is a good way of understanding what something is before you get into it. And then potentially being surprised or being disappointed. How do you feel about like, because you've toured around a lot and people are probably like being like, oh, you sound like this and you sound like that, and some people get really annoyed by that and some people are cool with it. I don't know, where do you stand on being genre classified by others? Everyone's going to genre themselves, but
no, I mean, I'm totally fine with it. And I also, I mean, I very much like wear like the influences that I have on my sleeve.
I mean, really loud free jazz is pretty like on the nose,
and
right?
it's you know, I'm not I mean, I think sometimes it can stem from like pretentious, like, I don't know. I feel like like the world of Western music, like especially like pop music, the world of pop music and pop music falling under like every genre of music that's been popular. So like punk and rock and everything have one at point been pop music. So it's in that world. Like there's very much like a weird emphasis on originality, and it's almost kind of like it's a sin to like admit your influences, or like the Kurt Cobain thing. It's like it's like he's like a self-taught guitarist that just felt his way through it, and it's like I don't know. There's people like misconstrue like the success of people who are self-taught or sort of like have an original point of view as being like that's the only way that it can be done. That's the only way you can make a meaningful art, is that if you just go off and do your own thing, which I don't think is even really real. Like I don't know. I think music is like a living tradition.
There's always a continuity, whether you like it or not.
And I think the obsession with being original and always having something new, I think that just kind of plays back into like not like it's like the capitalist system of like music, like the exploitation of music and the commercialization of it, and always having to have something new and original and having to be that kind of person, which. I mean, I think there's many ways that you can come to an original, meaningful conclusion and make music that affects people. And I think like, and you can have a genre tag, like you can work within like a sort of an umbrella of genres and have music that doesn't sound like anything else. And have an approach to that.
Yeah, like that Claire Rosé album I was playing when you guys came in. Is that to me big time? I was like, this is some of the most wholly original music I've heard in a long time. Yeah. Even though you could categorically say it fits under noise, emo, hyperpop.
Yeah. And
yeah, but it's like I've never heard anything that sounds like that, and it blew, and it's good. It's also beautiful music.
And how I've always approached music when it comes to genres is I've never been the type of person where it's like, oh, this is my 2004 era indie rock project, and I'm gonna do this other project where this is like my fastcore power violence project.
I'm one of those people.
My music is it's always been just a combination of everything that's ever influenced me, and finding out how to express that coherently, because I don't know, I can't restrict myself necessarily into creating something that's like more narrow. Of like a focus.
There is something to be said for doing that though. When I did a dub techno album, which I will likely never do again, I did it just to like, I loved the music. I didn't think there was enough of it, and I wanted to reverse engineer it to figure out why it's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's also
why I'm not successful at all, though. It's because people don't like you doing the, straying so far away from the last thing and stuff.
I mean, you definitely do have to pick something to focus on, to really like hone it. But I think, the exploration of I in my own playing or whatever, like I will try and do something, like even me, like, studying jazz drumming or whatever, I'm probably never going to be like filling in on like the jazz gig at a wedding or something.
That would be sweet though. I'd love to see you in a suit.
There's a million musicians who are incredible at being like a wedding band
or like a bar cover band.
Or a bar cover band. It's like, I could try and do that, but it's like, I would always be behind those guys and it would never be me. And it's like, but I can learn some of that material to add to my own thing.
Yeah, and you could siphon some of that sauce,
And it's at the end of the day, it's just an excuse to like enrich your love of music, to learn different styles.
Cool. So the new album comes out on Friday?
Monday.
Yeah. Why Monday?
It's just like everyone puts their albums out on Friday. It's like I was talking to Will, and like he was just saying you should just put it out on Monday, because that's like the opposite. It's almost like it's the opposite of what everyone does.
Yeah, Kanye started doing that a couple albums ago too.
Yeah,
he puts his
yeah.
albums out on Sunday now. You know?
Yeah. Is that kind of like, I feel like that's a like.
I think it's because he doesn't get it. He says he's going to put it on Friday and doesn't get his shit together for 48 hours. Really, is the reality. But
yeah. But
and the religious thing maybe. Is
yeah,
what
really.
say.
That's what I was thinking. But I don't know. I mean, I think of Monday's just like a good time to do it. Everyone's distracted on Friday. I don't know.
This is true.
Like, how often have I just like sat down Friday night and listened to a new album that just came out? I feel like it's.
Yeah, unless you're really stoked, I guess, right? Which I can't think of the last time that's happened to me. So
yeah, but
maybe if I can't think of anything really. Like music can wait a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Monday's.
I mean, it's like I think it's kind of arbitrary because people are gonna find it when they find it.
So Monday, May 6th, right?
Monday, May 6th, yeah.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. It's you can get it on. What's your Bandcamp? It's IO.
Yeah, io.bandcamp.com/ I don't know.
It'll be the first thing that shows up on there.
It's not exactly an easy name to Google, but
yeah, but it's at least it's only how many characters is this? 9. You only got to remember 9 characters.
Yeah,
and 2 of them repeat.
Yeah, but the name itself, IO, is very difficult to Google.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. There was that person that made electronic music that died.
Yeah,
that
named
was
IO. That I was getting a lot of messages for a while of people being like, "Is this you playing this EDM festival?"
Right.
Yeah,
they worked with Grimes, right?
Grimes.
Okay. Yeah.
And Deadmau5.
They worked with. They were Canadian too, then I assume, right?
No, I think it was like LA. He was like a disciple of Deadmau5, basically. He was like Deadmau5.
Was he signed to Mousetrap?
I think so.
Yeah. I know that somehow.
But
I know Deadmau5's label, but
he's unfortunately no longer with us.
Okay.
So
well, R.I.P. to IO and long live this IO. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
I'll play some of the new album. While we're here. Just play a little ad. But check out. Are there any Near Dark shows still left to coming?
There's one coming up this coming Sunday, or it's Sunday today, but the following Sunday. So Sunday, May 5th, Saint Reen and Threat Display from Vancouver are coming to play, and Saint Reen is she creates like operatic, experimental, ethereal, noisy soundscapes, and has like a very intense philosophy of like surrounded like basically around like bloodletting, and there is some body stapling happening in the music, which is
was this the person that you played the show with the Rita with that did the no okay, they also did body stapling, right?
No, there was it was like that was a bit different.
Okay, it was other mutilative kind of performance already,
sorta.
Yeah.
But that show's happening May 5th at the Fernwood Community Center. And yeah, come check that out. It's a noise show. There's some other noise grind improv bands playing, noise artists, power electronics, really cool opera music. Saint Reen was one she played last year and was one of my favorite performances of the year. And it was a performance that just like really made me think about life.
Cool.
And then after that, Friday, May 10th, we're doing like a collaboration with the Orange Light to bring Casey Adams and Hannah Rice, which is sort of an avant-garde percussion and dance duo. And myself and your host, JP, are debuting a free jazz project called Really Loud Free Jazz.
Isn't there someone else on that bill, right?
And Necrosel, which is our friend Drew, and another person that I don't know quite yet.
They're doing theremin,
playing
right?
theremin,
cool.
Theremin, dark ambient music.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. And then you're going on tour.
Yeah,
both of you.
Yeah. Pet Retna and Io.
And when does the tour start?
It starts May 22nd in Edmonton and concludes June 21st in Victoria at Little Fernwood. Okay, cool.
Well, good luck on the tour.
Yeah,
good luck on the album. We'll listen to some of it right now. This is Io with Paper Chord from Not All Prophecies.